Welcome to Holding Space. Michael Zinn is a visual producer and creative photographer using his imaginative visionary energy to channel Zinn and hold space for spiritual and innovative discussion. Each episode creates a supportive, accepting, and open environment that allows exploration and expertise to come together with engaging and entertaining convergence. With guest and community all helping the shape of the way, Michael is grateful to be together to hold space. Now here is your host of Holding Space, Michael Zinn.
Yes, here I am, centering myself, holding space, centering myself in the screen. How you guys doing? Welcome to Holding Space. We are back again here. You have tuned in. There are infinite possibilities. However, I'm gonna narrow it down to two. You have either accidentally come across this broadcast and it's live. Actually, we'll go with three. You've accidentally come across this broadcast and it is an archive, or you've intentionally come to be here with me, which in the case of, I thank you for coming to my space, holding space here on the Secret Spiral Network. Thank you to Kelly Brickle, who has allowed me to hold this space every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I am a curious inhabitant of the third dimension, right? Much like you probably are. And I'm here all the time having these great discussions with some great guests, which I'm excited for my guest tonight, a regular from the Sacred Spiral Network. But I have been super fascinated with sound and frequency, energy. The live stream of consciousness is my other show, and Holding Space is a kind of similar concept. But one of the things I've been doing is I've been opening the show and opening the space, clearing the space with this amazing bowl that I got here, this Tibetan singing bowl. It's amazing. It responds to my voice. Hello. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but just talking to the bowl, it responds. So I'm just going to open up the space. Just take a nice deep breath in and listen to the space. Listen to it. Listen to the sound resonate, how long it resonates for. If I hit it again, I can keep the frequency going by I'm just going to clear the space. I kind of find it to be like a sonic sage. It's still going. I feel it in my hand. It's so amazing. If you haven't experienced singing bowls, go to a sound healing or something local and experience it, because it truly is amazing. And the information that they're coming out with about sound and frequency and how it affects physical matter, it's all relevant. It's all coming to be. We're starting to understand our own existence. Let me just put this on the side here and say a few hellos. I see some people who I don't recognize. I see Diane out there. What's up, Diane? Welcome. I see Bethany. I see CJ. I see Jess. I see Melissa. Awesome. I feel like Romper Room. I see Joey. I see Marvin. All these amazing souls. Thank you guys for coming here. I am doing well. How are you? Again, you've landed at Holding Space. I'm babbling at the moment, but it's really an intentional moment of broadcast where we can all tune in to that same moment, kind of focus on the same thing, feel the same thing, and be connected as what I believe to be the one that we are, and really feel that. So thank you guys. That's awesome. Good evening. It makes a beautiful sound. I love it. I love it in my room. Sometimes when I'm just speaking, or I like to sometimes make sounds, and it responds to me. It sings, which is really so cool. And Rita is out there as well. Wow, what a great crowd. I'm having a party with a bunch of people I don't even know. Maybe you're friends with my guest and you heard his name and you're coming because he's an awesome soul. Awesome. I love bringing awesome souls together. My guest is a regular on the Sacred Spiral Network. He has his own show. Maybe I think he actually has a couple of different shows. He's an Evidential-Medium, which, if you know, you know what that is. If you don't, I'm going to have him explain it to you. And I'm going to welcome to hold some space for Michael Christopher. Welcome.
Hello, Michael.
How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Doing good. Thanks again for the invitation.
Yeah. I mean, Sacred Spiral Network has been something in my life that has been a growing part of, kind of my weekly activity, because there's so many shows going on, different psychic mediums and some EVP stuff, some paranormal stuff, really interesting stuff that I personally like to listen to, and the people who are hosting the shows all kind of present it well, such as yourself. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about the stuff that's going on, and welcome to my part of the space.
I feel like I'm in the hot seat for some reason.
You are in the hot seat. So you're not hosting a show tonight. You're actually a guest. I'm going to be asking you some questions, and hopefully you'll be getting some messages for some of the viewers. One of the things about the Sacred Spiral Network that I think is so cool is that everybody who tunes in is so open to receiving messages of all kinds. That's what I love about the spiritual community, is that, it's not just about, psychic mediums talking to, my loved ones who have passed. It's also about tarot cards. It's also about all sorts of energetic symbols and tokens that connect people to energy in their own unique ways.
Right.
I love that. I mean, that's what makes this world so fascinating, and that's what I think got me into doing this kind of thing. Right, having a show where I can invite somebody on and be like, okay, show me your puzzle piece. Right? We've all got this piece of the puzzle to the big puzzle of life and why we're all here, and we all get to share it. And I love that. And Christine, what's up? Good to see you out there. And I do believe, philosophically, that, consciousness is one thing, right? Like the ocean is one thing. I love this metaphor. I heard it today. The ocean, like, we're like a wave in the ocean. We're there for a moment. We're part of the ocean, but we're kind of separate from the ocean, right? Having our own experience of being the ocean, and then we're back in the ocean. And that's kind of a nice little metaphor, I think, for a human existence being.
It is. It's like while we're here, we feel like we're separate from everything, and when you find your moment, when you start searching for this, and you slowly start to realize we're all connected in some way, and then we start to kind of try to move back to understanding that, especially when people are just being, I don't like to use this as an example, but when people are being cruel to each other, it's like eventually you feel it when you're being cruel to somebody else. You feel it, and it's like, whoa. I think that's like the moment too where you realize, I need to change my behavior, because I'm only hurting myself, by doing not only the person, but I'm hurting myself as well. So there's these moments where you start to realize, no, it's like, that's not how you treat people. It's the old saying, right? You treat people like how you want to be treated.
Boom. Yeah, Michael, you hit it on the head. You described my exact philosophy of life, and kind of also, the way that I became aware of that, right? Like as you get older. Oh, Christine is saying we got major reverb. Christine, did I fix it? I turned off the echo cancellation in order to play the singing bowl, and I told Michael he wasn't having an echo, because I don't hear an echo on my side.
No, I don't know. I don't hear it now either.
Okay, yeah, I did turn it off. So she says, so I fixed it. Yeah, so just so you guys know, because I like to explain things, in order to play the singing bowl, I need to turn off a setting here, echo cancellation setting, so that you hear it, so that the system doesn't just like eliminate the sound thinking that it's background noise. And so that's what I did. And so now I've turned it off. So now we're better. We're all in the same place. There's no reverb happening.
Yep.
Kelly Brickle is here. Welcome to
Kelly Brickle.
Kelly. Good to see you.
She is busting her hump just putting this stuff together and producing all these shows.
She is doing an amazing job.
Yes.
Kelly, we were just shouting out how amazing the Sacred Spiral Network is, and the community that you've created, and the community itself. You guys out there coming and supporting everybody, and just being so willing to contribute that a little extra dose of love into the universe, right? Because that's what we're all.
Yep.
That's what we're all trying to do. So I know for me, like, I watch a lot of podcasts like this because I love the conversation about consciousness and what is consciousness and what is reality. And what I love so much about that conversation, especially nowadays, is the converging of science and spirituality, the ideas of quantum. I've actually even heard people say, you've heard people say, we're not humans having a spiritual experience, we're spirits having a human experience.
Right.
I've heard someone say we're not quantum beings having a human experience, or the opposite. We're not humans having a quantum experience. We're quantum beings having a human experience. So there's such a similarity between kind of the explanation, and I think it definitely helps me try to wrap my head around it, right? Because existing as a physical being is something that I've kind of gotten used to and taken ownership over the some odd years that I've been doing it, right? And to all of a sudden find out, like, nah, that's not really what it's all about. It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. And, if I could ask you a question, what sent you searching for this? And when I say this, it's like the afterlife, just all this. I like to say woo-woo.
That's a great question. That's a great question, and it's funny that you say that, because I try to experience it, and I try to kind of put it out there without the woo-woo, right?
Yeah.
But I think what got me interested in it is the fact that I had started to befriend and become involved in a spiritual community that was full of psychic mediums, Akashic record readers, channelers, all sorts of modalities of metaphysical practices, Reiki, sound healing, the meditation, some of the simple stuff. And it was all feeling the same to me, right? There was this very similar feeling to it, and I was like, this is all connected, right? That was the whole "this is all connected" thing. And I guess I just started to view other people. I started to have a hard time judging other people's experience, right? So let's go back 15 years ago, on watching YouTube and watching a channeler even just mention the Galactic Council, right? 15 years ago, this guy was like, not for me. You know what I mean? And there was judgment, and it wasn't awful judgment, right? But there was certainly like, yeah, this person might not be all there, right? I was judging that person. And at a certain point, when I started hanging out with these psychic mediums and experiencing things in their presence that I just could not explain, and that felt like they resonated with me, they felt like love to me, the experience, it felt good. I started to not have that judgment, right? And I started to have conversations with people, and I would feel myself, my heart and my head expand in taking in their experience and trying to understand, like, well, what do you mean you talk to dead people, right? Like, what does that feel like? What does that look like? One of my good friends is Christopher Allen. He's an amazing medium, and just watching him work and the validations, which is something I want to talk about with you, right? Because that's very much your style, the Evidential-Medium style. Is like pulling out these details, right? So a good story for, I guess, evidential mediumship is the story Christopher told me about a woman who came in with her boyfriend, who was a big biker dude. He didn't believe in this stuff, and he was struggling with some things, right? And they didn't tell Chris what he was struggling with, but Chris saw a scene in his head. He saw the Charlie Brown Christmas scene with the very, the little Christmas tree that really wasn't anything, and he's like, what does this mean? And the guy stood up, and he's like, seemed like Chris was like, whoa, 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 and he took off his jacket, and his back was a tattoo of that scene.
Holy.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and being around those kinds of moments, right, where you're like, there's no way he planned that, right? He found that on the internet, Christopher, it was just the proof I needed, and energetically, I started to feel it, right? I joke often about how I have this psychic fetish, that I don't feel the urge to go see a psychic and get a reading, but I love being around readings. Because
I do too. I love watching other people work, because we all work in a different way, and just the way people deliver the message, the way they receive messages. It's just same here. I mean, I'm just fascinated by this stuff, and I'll take classes just to be with other people, just to watch their process. Because I mean, like I said, everybody does it a different way, and we can all learn from each other, and just like, it's just, it just still, blows my mind.
Yes. It's really interesting. Thank you for asking that question, though, by the way, because I don't think I give myself enough, thought to it, and like why I'm interested in it. And I certainly have had some experiences, where like I'm not looking to develop, right, and become a psychic medium, but I know from my experiences and my friends who are psychic mediums that we all have the ability. Yes. We all are connected, right? We all have this thing, and some people like to go to the gym and work out and be fit. That's the same thing. They're exercising their muscles, right? So people like to exercise their intuitive muscles and practice mediumship, like you like to practice mediumship, and that feels good to you. And again, that fetish of being around it is, I feel like it's all energetic. I can feel that energy. I can tune in to that energy exchange that's happening between the medium and the person that they're reading. And I always love it, because I could always look at Chris or you when you're done with your reading and be like, that felt good, didn't it? You healed a little bit with that one, didn't you? Like,
the feeling you get. I mean, and it's different from online than it is when I do it in person. The energy when you're in a room full of people, and you can just see how people react. Because I always say, especially during a demonstration, don't come to those expecting a personal reading, but be aware of what's going on, and just sit in the moment, what's going on. I mean, even though, like I said, you may not get one yourself. Like, I used to watch John Edward on TV. I knew I was never going to get a reading from John Edward.
Right.
But every time I watched this show, I left with this feeling of, there's the proof that there's more beyond this world. And the peace that gives you is just, you can't touch it.
Right. Absolutely. And for me, the idea of an emotional reaction, right? So you're listening to someone and you're hearing their story, and of course it's sad because there's a passing involved and a death and whatever, but you're listening to this exchange, and you're feeling this energy from it. And often I will have an emotional response. And for me, what that is the ultimate proof of manifestation. Okay. Because if you think about what people say manifestation is, it's like the ability to take a thought and make it physical. So whatever it is that's going on in your head, that thought of relating to the story, or, tuning into the frequency of that story, manifests itself physically by you feel it right here. It's choking you up. Your eyes are actually producing water physically. Like, that's incredible. For me, that moment is like you are touching your soul, in the only way possible, physically.
And it's, I mean, in the years I've been doing this too, I think there's only been a handful of, maybe I'll say less than 5, where I actually get emotional, and I'm really good at just separating myself from it. It's just like, I'm here, I'm the observer, I'm the messenger. But there are times where you can't help but feel on both sides, the person coming through and the person that I'm reading. It's just like, it just gets you, and just, I think it's just so many different just emotions in one, just the gratitude, of being able to do this and the appreciation I have for Spirit trusting me of all people to be their messenger. I'm like, I still like, I joke around, but like, you guys picked me for some reason. You knew what you were getting.
Totally. Totally. And it's interesting because, again, on this network, I find sometimes I'll do a show. I did a show last week with just myself, the week before with a comedian, right? But because of the way Kelly spreads the shows out on other networks, there are people watching on specifically psychic channels, right?
Right.
So they're like, "Ooh, I want a reading," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not really a reader." But last week, a woman said she had a question, and I said, "You know what? Give me the question. Let me see if I can answer your question." And I did answer the question. It wasn't connecting to a loved one. It was an energetic response to what she was talking about, where she said she was feeling a little disconnected in certain things.
Right.
And I felt like Bashar suddenly, right? And it was very similar message, that find the thing that stimulates you. I said, are you creative? Do you sing? Do you write? Do you do poetry? Do you dance? Do you cook? Any of those are creative energy, right? That if you think about those moments when you're doing those activities, that's where you are. You're nowhere else except in that moment. You're in a flow state, and that's what makes it so beautiful. And I think that, just speaking this stuff out loud, Michael, is like, that's my mission. That's my message, to let everyone understand how easy that is, right? And
It is.
And just open themselves up to that idea.
It's not all about work, 8-10 hours a day and just have a few hours in the evening and maybe one day off a week. I mean, I understand, we have a life and we have responsibilities, but we still have to find that time for something that, like you say, excites us and just gets that, whatever it is, that moment to just step away from your reality and just enjoy yourself. Even if it's an hour a day, but man, you have to. And
absolutely, yeah. And Evelyn, I guess Eveline was there last week, and she said, "I remember, you're a medium without trying. We all are able to do it." And what's so good is for me, how good it feels, right? To just let go, and not to let go of the judgment of yourself, to let go of the judgment of any of it, and just feel and just interact with the other energy sources, you guys, that are inhabiting the space, and being intentional with that energy, right? Like I know I want to be good. I know I want to be loving, right? I'm not here to be better than anyone else or put down anyone else. Like, all of these things are, I think, so important, especially nowadays. I think people in general, and not judging, because I understand, fall into these habits, right? Of conditioning, of like competition and trying to be better, and saying things about other people to make themselves feel better, maybe, and stuff.
Unfortunately, like that. I mean, there is a side of that in this work where you find that, and it's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. I've always said, I want everybody to be better than I am. I want that, because that helps more people. It's like, we need more people out there doing this work.
Yeah.
And it takes a brave person to step out, and I'm still very uncomfortable. Every time I do a reading, anytime, whether it's one-on-one in a group, I'm a nervous wreck. I mean, because we never know what to expect, but it's like, I have a job to do, so I got to put all that aside the best I can, but man, I just
totally.
There's so many people that are talented that need to be out there helping us.
Absolutely. Well, and speaking of that, I'm here to hold space for you, Michael. So let's just talk a little bit about you. I know Sacred Spiral Network, there are people who are probably familiar with you and your story, but I love your story because it's true. A lot of psychic mediums that I speak to, they tell you stories of, how when they were younger, they felt these things, and your story is a little bit different. And I love that. I especially love that you have this military background, right? Like you, before any of this happened, you lived a very particular way. And I think
Yeah,
when I think of military, I think very rigid, right?
it was.
There's a very certain aspect to it, right? It's very, everything is in your control. You're doing doop 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 doop, right? And it's not really the same world.
It's taken me a lot of years to get that way of like shedding that. I mean, I was in for 20 years, so
Right.
I'm
Right.
definitely a different person. Well, there's a lot of reasons why I'm a different person now. That was during
Sure.
those 20 years, but
Sure.
yeah,
And so I was just kind of refreshing my memory, because I know you were a guest on the live stream of consciousness,
Yeah.
of your story, and your story had to do a lot with a personal illness. You had some kidney issues that you needed to get your kidney replaced.
Yeah.
I was like looking in your story. I'm like, oh, so did he find spirituality and heal himself? But you kind of, I mean, you kind of did, right? You had a donor, but I feel like in your story you kind of manifested that, right? In a way.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and I'll just briefly touch on it, but yeah, between 1997 and 2015, like there was, I lost two of my brothers to cystic fibrosis, and my sister was murdered. I went through kidney failure, transplant. So yeah, again, this is really condensed, but all of those moments pushed me in a direction to start searching for those answers. Like, is there more, beyond this world? And that was really after my brother Jason passed in 97. 2000 is when John Edward came out on TV with his very first show. And of course, Sylvia Brown and all that. And I found that. And again, those shows just were like, wow, it gave me so much comfort. Like, wow, there's more, which led me to reading, I don't know how many books. And it was a hobby. It wasn't anything I was like, oh, I'm going to be a medium someday. Well, somebody had some other plans for me, because here I am. But yeah, it's just, I wasn't looking for this, but it pushed me in this direction. And, I kept following the breadcrumbs, and here I am.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're here. There's a lot of really cool people in this space. You actually mentioned something pretty cool about Sylvia Brown, because for me, the way I was telling you, spirituality and metaphysicality was all kind of feeling the same, right? It was like I would just breathe and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's Akashic Records. Oh, that's, and it was all feeling the same. Well, in the past couple of years, that's expanded to cosmic entities and aliens and interdimensional beings, all kind of having that same texture as loved ones who've passed on. Anything that's related to a non-physical realm, right? And it's, even for me, it's very interesting trying to wrap my head around the idea that aliens, even though a lot of the stories, and I say aliens, but you know what I mean, a lot of the stories that we hear are sightings and interactions with that. But for me, I feel like aliens are a part of this non-physical realm, and just kind of manifesting themselves in that way, because we can understand it, but the truth is a little bit deeper than that. In my estimation.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing off the table. I mean, I said that since the moment I started talking to those who passed. I mean, there's nothing that's off the table. If you can imagine it, it's probably happening somewhere. And at this point, I can't imagine just saying, no, that doesn't exist, And I mean, we're alien to somebody else's species or whatever. Right. It's just, I think, like you said, we're energy first. Where we decide to incarnate or manifest or whatever. And I'm no expert on, the intergalactics and all that. Right. I know plenty of people that are, and it's interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, just when I read that we incarnate in those realms, so we've been all types of beings.
Sure. So. And there's even belief systems that say we actually are that right now. at the
Yeah,
same moment, that
I
that
believe that.
it all exists at once.
Yeah, I believe that our soul, and the way I understand it from what I've read too, is the majority of our soul is still on the other side. Where a small, like, if you're going to use percentages, like less than 10% of our soul is in this body. The rest is your higher self. That's the only way I can comprehend this, is if I think,
I think that's a great. I think we need some tools to help us
yeah,
comprehend this, because it really is. I heard somebody talking about this on one of the podcasts too. Like, if the idea of God, the idea of the infinite, those are just words. We can't even get past the word part to the comprehension of what it actually represents.
no.
You
I
know?
mean, it's hard for me as a medium, and I've heard this and I've read this. I'll say that a lot, that I do a lot of reading on this, but when you specifically, if you ever have the chance to talk to somebody who had a near-death experience,
Mm-hmm.
or to watch somebody tell their story, you'll often hear them say, I cannot describe in human language what that was,
Mm-hmm.
because that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that, and I should have paid attention a little bit more in school, because my vocabulary, especially in the military, is like very, very small. But anyway, there'll be emotions and feelings that I have, and I try my best to put them in physical language sometimes. And it's like, I end up stumbling over my words, and just, I get it out eventually. But it's even that, it's like trying to describe an emotion that they're making me feel sometimes. It's like, how do I put this in words?
Yeah. Well, I love that science and spirituality and these conversations are all really making us think, especially that they're making us think of not the other stuff that's other people are thinking of right now, right? All of the politics and stuff
Right.
I mean, I can't even imagine putting that stuff into the mix of what I'm trying to comprehend on this side. I mean, I can't even, I can't even imagine it. I love that. And Lynn is out there. She just made an observation. 2 Michaels. Yes.
Hello, Lynn. And then there's Jennifer. Watch.
We are 2
troublemaker.
Michaels. Oh yeah. So all right. So I do want to hold a little bit of space for you, because that's really what I like to do, and just tell a little bit more of your story. But I do know that the people on this network love to get readings, so I don't know if you're firing up those.
It's like a switch. It's like it's really, and that's the thing people confuse too, is I think people get caught up in rituals of what they believe they have to do before they read. It's like, I'm here. It's just like, when I sat down to talk to you tonight, I didn't have to go hug a tree or spin around on my left foot. I sit down and there you are. We can communicate.
Sure.
That's always been my mindset.
But wait a second, I'm not calling you out, but you're being a little judgmental there.
No, that's me. That's just me.
Right, because I think everybody's got their own way. Some people do have rituals, right?
And I like to finish that too, because I always say, I always say that this is just what you do you.
That's right.
So I want to make sure I make that clear. I'm not dogging on anybody's ritual. It's just me.
That's right.
I have a short attention span. So from the beginning, when I was told, okay, I got to meditate before I do a reading, a few weeks into that, I'm like, I don't have the patience for this. So I find different ways. I'll be like, okay, let me prove it to myself. Do I need to do that? My very next reading, I sat down and there they were. Spirit was there, and there we go. So I proved to myself that I'm just here. They're here. I don't need to do anything else. That's just my experience.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's awesome. And I think it's important as well, right? Because I feel like, again, the way I look at it's all the same, right? I feel like if you read tea leaves, right, that's just your thing. The way you're seeing something that I'm not. You're tuning into something that I'm not. If I wanted to learn it, I would ask you to teach me how to do it, and we could go through that. But like, that's what's so special about you. That's what's so special about each unique perspective, right? And that's what I love about these shows that I do, and getting to meet so many people, because all it does is expand my perceptions of all of the infinite possibilities. And I'm sure that I've been like, ooh, I like that one, and then I've been able to kind of take it to my into my world and add my little flavor to it and experience it the way I need to. So Eveline is saying, Michael, weren't you an air traffic control person? How crazy making was that.
I
don't
still
know.
am.
So yeah, okay. So I was gonna say I don't know which Michael she's talking to, but I'm imagining it might be you because
Yeah.
I am not an air traffic. So is that your profession? You're an air traffic controller.
That's what I did in my time in the Air Force, and then I've
Oh
done it
wow.
ever since in the civilian world too. So
Oh wow.
talk about mixing two worlds. I mean,
yeah, and talk about like being organized and like everything's got to be in control. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty intense.
I always say I need that balance. I need the craziness in my life to offset, because like I said, I've tried to do this full time before, and it's like I need chaos in my life, and air traffic always provides that. So it's a good balance.
Oh, that's hysterical. And I see Courtney Lopez is out there. What's up, Courtney? Welcome.
Hello, Courtney.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh man, Michael, I just love having these conversations with people who don't think I'm a nut job. And you know, and we can really, again, like just reflect off of each other. You know, I can remember experiences that kind of, you know, defined that, right, to me. Like I can remember being in a supermarket in a moment, right, and these experiences happen like in a millisecond, right? But they feel like experiences, right? So I was in the supermarket, you know, and there's this din when you're in the supermarket, all these conversations happening, there's so much going on, and you're just there, you're focused. Okay, I've got to go get coffee or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, everything slowed down. I heard all the conversations. I looked over and I saw an older woman talking to a younger kid, and I heard the words. I heard she was saying, you know, when I was your age, that kind of thing, and he was responding, and all of a sudden I felt myself in each role. I was like, oh, I've been her. Oh, I've been him. You know what I mean? In that moment, like, just like whatever it was, deja vu of a conversation that I had, I don't know, but it was just so amazing to the world to just go slow down to that one frozen second and then go back to normal. And then all of a sudden I'm smiling. I've got this smile on my face going, what was that? Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm everyone. So cool. Really, really so cool. And I think that's a part of what you do, you know, as tuning into the messages that somebody might need. You know what I mean? Like you're just tuning into their energy. And I see Angelo is out there just checking in. Courtney says, wow, yes. Courtney, have you experienced that at the supermarket where suddenly you're everybody at the moment? You also mentioned, Michael, taking classes, right, as a way to explore this. And I've done that myself, right, and had that same experience in a Zoom class with like 20 people on the screen. I think it was 15 people on the screen. And then suddenly my mind wandering to each one of them going, okay, and feeling like, oh my God, I'm in that person's room. I am that person. And then being like, just connecting to all of the energies on the screen at that moment for just that millisecond. Yeah. And then just coming out of that moment being like, okay, I just leveled up. Something happened there.
And that's kind of how it feels, you know, when you channel, and everybody does this. You may not consciously be aware of it because you're not intentionally doing it, but yeah, those feelings, those thoughts you're having, those are real. That's what it feels like. It's the same thing. It's like when I'm doing a reading on Zoom, because that's easy because everything's right in front of you. Mm-hmm. But I'll feel myself pulled to a certain person sometimes, or, you know, especially if I'm working with other mediums, I don't try to preload messages. So I'm not trying to get ahead of I just watch.
Right.
And I just know it's like, I feel I'm going to end up going to this person. I feel Dad's here for this person, mm-hmm. you know, and I'll just let it go. And then when it's my turn, it's like, okay, who's here? Right. 9 times out of 10, it's like right to that person. It's like, okay, your Dad's here.
Right. So, and let me ask you a question. Have you experienced like, kind of like, how would I put this? Like a message that was actually, maybe it was coming through one person to you, but the message was meant for multiple people that were receiving it at the same time?
Oh my God, yes. So it's commonly known as piggybacking. Mm-hmm. And what that is, and I feel it's because spirit is very efficient, right? So they organize this. They're on that side. But if they know, it's like, okay, I need to make sure like my daughter gets a message along with your son, and maybe their passings were similar. And one that's coming to mind right now is I did one a while back. It was a fundraiser. I ended up connecting with 6 people in the room. Every single one of them had lost a person they had taken their lives. So I had 6
Suicides,
individuals on the other side. Everybody was taking a piece of the message.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, just take that. I had never had it that split off before, but there was things I was saying to one person that made sense and another. So again, I'm just delivering what I got. So they were all in that common thread of, unfortunately, that's how they left the world.
Right.
And it confused me at first. I'm like, I'm used to having 1 or 2, but there was like 6. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go with this. So if you feel this message, take it as a message from your person.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know what? There's a couple of people responding to that, and it's interesting because I was thinking about relaying this story to you earlier. So here's an idea. Tell me what you think about this.
Sure.
I, as a video guy and a photography guy, I actually, and a spiritual guy, I find myself in situations where I'm documenting things that, maybe they're metaphysical or whatever. So I was documenting this pranic rebirth journey, and it was some breath work, and it was some sound healing, and it was a bunch of stuff. But the people who were experiencing it, there were probably about 12 people, and I would say probably 7 or 8 of them had physical reactions to it, almost like, their bodies were convulsing and they were screaming, and kind of this involuntary purging of energy. And it was super, super intense. It was really, really intense, especially if you're a little empathic, right? And you can feel that energy. And for me, it was. And one of the things that I walked away, one of the things that hit me, the message, right? The information that I got from that was, holy crap, the world needs a lot of healing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of healing that a lot of people need, right? And then what I realized was, it's not about what that person experienced or what that person experienced. It's this frequency of this pain, of this trauma, that each person has tuned into it through their experience.
Yeah.
And that's what's being healed in this ceremony, or in this practice, right? In these exercises, is healing that frequency and that particular person's interactions with that frequency.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you?
100%. I believe, just like you said, the energy is going to touch people in different ways and trigger them in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this just comes to mind. Maybe in that moment, they found a way to forgive their mother for the way she was raising them. And they maybe just for a moment got to see the mom's perspective on why she was the way she was.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And that's the healing. Right. That's the healing that happens. Right.
Yeah.
And I hear that a lot with, people who are doing like ayahuasca experiences and things like that, experiencing those kinds of moments where you're confronting something specific, from the past, and then changing it, energetically changing it. It's amazing. It's really amazing what can be done, with the mind and with connecting to it. You said something earlier that kind of made me laugh about imagination. Anything you can imagine, right, it probably exists. And that's what I said, right? So you hear the idea that the universe is always expanding, right? Well, to me, it's like anytime you have a thought,
yep,
you've now added that to the universe. So you've actually expanded the universe at any time you have a thought. Or it could be that you've tuned into a thought that exists in the universe, right? But there are new thoughts that happen, and those are the ones that expand the universe.
I think the term imagination gets a bad rep, because if you have to use I have to use my imagination when I'm doing this work, because that's how I picture things. So you have to be open to that idea of imagining, You know, it's not making things up, but you have to imagine what the world is like, their world, the spirit world.
Right. Right.
You got to imagine how they communicate. You got to imagine how do they appear, you know. So
That's
again, it's just all imagination. We used to have great imaginations when we were kids. We'd come up with some really good stuff. I mean, to keep ourselves entertained, and then that slowly gets snuffed out. But I think it's opening that again and
Yeah.
just, you know, having fun.
You know, it's so funny. It's so important what you're saying. It's so important because, and I feel like I've told this story before, so forgive my audience if you've heard this, right? But I've only had one experience in my life that I would call a download.
Mm-hmm.
And in that download, what I received was reality is imagination.
Yeah.
Right? Reality exists in the realm of imagination. So everything you just said about imagination gets a bad rap, right? Because what happens when you're a kid? They say, oh, it's just your imagination, right? Meaning it's not real, right? Which is the opposite of the truth, right? It's like, oh yeah, you're just experiencing reality. I don't think we'd be able to handle that as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Those figures that you're seeing, those imaginary creatures, yeah, that's just reality. No,
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be able to handle that.
I mean, yeah, it's just it's unfortunate, but and we do. I think technology has gotten our minds away from just being creative.
Yep.
But we have to awaken that imagination again.
Yeah.
That's how we get things like to manifest.
Yeah.
You know, I imagine 3 motorcycles in my garage, and on Friday I'll have 3 motorcycles in my garage.
Oh,
so I manifested 3 motorcycles.
That's awesome. Tell us that story. How'd that happen?
Oh my! So ever since my illness and all that, you know, I long story short, I literally had to learn to live in the moment. Tomorrow doesn't exist. When I was sick, especially working up to, I didn't know when my kidneys were going to fail. I just knew they would someday.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally, to keep my sanity, had to live just for now.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, from that moment, I'm like, I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. And if something makes me happy, I'm going to do it. Now, within reason, of course. I'm not going to go out there and just give away my life savings on things.
Sure.
But if I find something that I enjoy doing, I'm going to do it. You know, I live every day knowing that my kidney could reject, and that's that, you know, so it's, I live in the moment and I do what makes me happy. Mm-hmm. You know?
Gotcha.
Within reason.
Gotcha. So you just bought 3 motorcycles.
I had 2, and I really wanted this Honda Goldwing.
I gotcha. You're collecting them now, which is that's the point is collecting motorcycles makes you happy.
I might have to sell one to make my wife happy, but hey.
You know what? And making your wife happy is not a bad intention either. You know what I mean? It's a good intention. Yeah. Absolutely. Wow, Mike, I'm having so much fun with you. It's getting late and we haven't even done a reading. If anybody out there is interested in one, you don't have to be. We can just continue this amazing conversation. This is a lot of fun.
I have an idea.
But Mike has an idea.
But
what's your idea, Mike?
Only if you're game. It's kind of an experiment. So okay. This is just playing around, but it's almost, I don't want to say prove a point. Here's the premise. I kind of want to just play around with walking you through a communication to see if anybody can connect with the information you give. So this is what I'll do. If you're game.
I'm totally game.
Okay, because I want everybody to understand, again, this is not just for mediums, that we do connect. And sometimes, I mean, it happens to me. I'll try and the information doesn't land. That's fine. You know, sometimes that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. But I do this in the classes that I teach. It's like I haven't taught in a while, which I want to get back into doing. But on night 1, what I would do is I was like, before I'd explain everything, I'd be like, okay, I'd grab somebody. I'm like, we're going to channel, you know, and they're usually like, what do you mean? We don't know anything yet. I'm like, you don't need to know anything. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So here's what I want you to do. And then everybody in the audience, I really want you to pay attention. If you can connect with this information, just go ahead and say yes. And if you can put in a comment, say what makes sense to you. And we're just going to keep it simple. So okay. Michael, all I'm going to do is you don't even have to prepare.
Okay.
So
I'm just relaxing into the moment.
So this is what I'm going to do, and then we'll do it. So I'm going to ask you, without even thinking about it, I'm going to ask you, okay, I'm going to just say, open your awareness. And Spirit already knows my intention. It's already been set. So I'm going to ask you to let me know, what do you feel? Do you feel a man or a woman presence with you? Okay. And then I'm going to ask you, was this person young or old when they passed? And it's, again, don't even think about it. Just the first thought, feeling, emotion you get, just say it. Don't even think about it.
Okay.
So there's going to be 3 or 4 of them. So
okay.
It'll be, do you feel a man or a woman? Do you feel they were young or old when they passed? And how do you feel they passed? Okay. And again, you're not going to think about it. It's
Right.
like, okay, just let me know when you're ready. And everybody else out there too. I love this. I just want to see what happens. So here we go. So Michael, really quick, right now, who do you feel? Do you feel a man or a woman with you?
I feel a man, older man, older.
Okay. So you feel this person was older when they passed. Okay. How do you feel they passed?
I'm not feeling anything specific other than kind of just natural old age,
Okay.
which could be, like, I mean, it could be a heart attack that's brought on by old age,
Right.
You know what I mean? But nothing. I don't think it was an accident, like a sudden.
Okay. So we have an older gentleman that passes. We're feeling that he passed of natural causes. Let me ask you one more thing, because I'm going to see if I can connect with him too. But what was this person's hobby? Just what comes to mind?
It's not a hobby, but I'm feeling a cigar. This person smoked a cigar.
Okay. So anybody out there in the chat, can you understand an older gentleman that passed of natural causes, possibly a heart attack, and loved to smoke cigars? And you have to be able to take all 3. So I want to get this to word specific, because I feel like I'm connected to him too.
Interesting.
So Maggie is saying my dad. All right. So Mike, let's take this one step further, and whenever we got to cut it off, because I know your show goes to a certain time, but I'm going to kind of lean into this, because I feel he keeps showing me like cars. I feel like cars were a hobby of his. I feel like he was a hobbyist mechanic.
Okay.
And just, what are you feeling? Well, just back and forth, just whatever comes to mind.
Yes, I don't know if I'm feeling specifically cars, and I don't know how specific I should get with you to tell you what I'm thinking, but I definitely am feeling craftsmen, like not necessarily cars, but like crafts, like very meticulous, putting things together.
Okay. Can anybody take that? And that leans kind of like into the personality too. And that's literally how we start this. And if I had this book out on purpose, because if anybody's interested in like developing or even reading about it, this book, and I'll put it in so it's Where Two Worlds Meet, and it's by Janet Nohavik. Janet passed away, I believe, 3 years ago, but she was just big in the spiritualist community and just a fascinating teacher in person. And her book kind of walks you through how to connect. It's just like all these different exercises, and it takes you from like, I have no experience, up to just, I can read for people. So yeah, if you're at all interested, and that's where those exercises come, and there's pages of them, but you're starting out with the first one, and it's just very simple. And for students starting out, you want to keep it structured in the beginning to get them to kind of trust. Right. So the first thing, it's like, okay, who do you feel with you? Okay, I feel a woman, young or old. Okay, I feel she was maybe in her 30s.
Right.
I feel that she passed in this way.
Yeah, I like the exercises, because they're definitely like intuitive, right? You're trying to like tap that person into the intuition. And Suzanne, I see you waving. I don't know if that means you're resonating with what we're talking about, the older man who builds with his hands and smokes cigars. Oh, what were you just saying? I was just saying, shoot.
About how to develop or
yeah, it was the exercises. So in one of the classes I took, an Akashic Records class, one of the exercises was this psychic surgery, right? And part of the exercise was reading through the actual exercise, right? So the instructions of the exercise were written out, and we were reading through those instructions. I would take a paragraph and I would read through those instructions. And if I tripped on a word or I stumbled on a word, we would stop and I would look at that word, and then we would go through a series of questions. Now, they're a little different than what you're saying, and it reminds me, it's almost like a therapy kind of thing, right? So it's like, okay, when you hear that word, and it could be something like the, right? The word the. When you hear that word, where do you feel it in your body? Like that kind of a question. What does it feel like? Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it heavy? Is it light? Like you would have to kind of use your intuition to feel whatever it was that you were trying to focus on. And I thought that was really interesting, those exercises. And I got to the point in that class where, we were partnered with somebody to do an actual reading, and I did I think 2 or 3 of them, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just closing my eyes and saying what was coming. Each time the people were responding like, "Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you mean. That makes sense to me." You know what I mean? Even though it didn't necessarily make sense to me. And it was really interesting. And again, it's not something that I was like, "Oh my God, I got to do more of this." And I went in that direction, but it certainly was something that I was like, "This is amazing." And this is just proof of all of the things that I believe, you know what I mean? And Courtney says, "That's funny. What just happened to you is how spirit clears your mind." Yeah. Exactly. Spirit clears
me a lot because I'm getting older. So yeah, I get a lot of clearings.
And it looks like Lynn looks like Lynn looked up the book, and it's a little expensive, and she's hoping there's another source for it. So I don't know if you want to make some copies of your pages and send them to Lynn. But Trudy did say it was a good book as well. So and again, I think, if reading, like for me, I'm not a big reader, right? I think my favorite thing that I ever read was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the series, right? And like Douglas Adams, I think I read everything he wrote because the way he wrote just spoke to me. But there's so many great resources out there. So if you are a reader, and somebody recommends a book, I would say go for it. So again, we keep digressing away from this. I love that exercise, Michael. Thank you so much for bringing me through it. I don't know. Suzanne did not answer as far as if that was resonant.
No, she said it wasn't for her.
Oh, it wasn't. Okay.
That's fine. I mean, that's, again, when you're starting out, that's just a way to get you started. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's practicing, like you said, it's working out, it's getting those muscles to strengthen and trust. And
so here's a question for you, because one of my listeners, Angelo, who's a great guy, he has also been kind of, he comes from a very religious background, and this spirituality stuff is very new to him. But he does feel like he's been able to kind of receive messages from a young kid. He has memories of certain things and experiences. So he's saying some things that I believe he's asking about you. So do you have a connection to a priest, or a religious statue of Saint Michael, or Saint Mary's pendant? Those are the things that seem to be coming through for Angelo, I believe, related to you. I might be wrong.
So I do carry, let me see if I can find it, because this was my brother Jason's. When he passed away, I got this pendant, from my mother, and I've carried it in my wallet ever since. I carried it on my deployment to the sandbox. It's stuffed in my wallet. See if I can find it. Here it is. So, and I need my stronger glasses to look at it. It's, yep, St. Michael.
Wow.
So, like I said, I've carried this with me ever since.
There you go, Angelo. You've nailed it. How does that feel? I've been trying to tell Angelo, like he's constantly asking me questions, right? Like, what's the violet flame? What does this mean? What does that mean? And I'm just constantly telling him, like, I can't answer those questions for you. You need to answer those for yourself. You need to find those answers. And he's definitely connected, and he's figuring it out, which is beautiful to see. It's great to have a friend who is figuring it out and likes to talk about it, because it used to be you couldn't talk about this stuff, right? I mean,
right.
People would say crazy. So Eveline says we nailed her dad.
Oh wow, Evelyn, can you put in there what resonated with you? I love when this happens.
Yeah, me too. I love it too,
because it kind of just
and I felt it at the same time. No, you, Michael. Well, there's two Michaels.
Yeah, I think it was between two of us, so we both take credit for this one because Michael did most of the work.
Yes,
Michael's in. But, I would say for Angelo though, find everything. Okay, so there you go. And again, I don't like to use the term "I proved my point,"
right?
But in a way, it does. If you put your mind out of the way and you just allow the stuff to flow, their spirit will work with you.
Yeah.
And they're not going to come through and waste your time or their energy for nonsensical messages.
Yeah.
But I was going to say to Angelo, find what excites you, because there's so many different modalities. And I tell this to people. For me, it's always been mediumship. Mediumship is like, that's the reason I want to do this. I can work with the intuitive, and I've done Reiki and I've done energy healing, but man, Reiki or mediumship, that's what excites me.
Awesome.
Excites me. And I just thought of this. I am actually named after a priest.
Oh.
So I'll tell this really quick because I think it really will resonate and to Angelo. So when I was born, way back in 1969, they didn't have scans or MRIs, but it was determined that I had a hole somewhere in my esophagus. So I was less than a day old and they had to operate. And it was basically, they didn't think I was going to survive it. So they just opened me up, hoping to find it. But before they did, our family priest, Father Cletus. So my original name was Michael Christopher Perica. Well, when this happened, Father Cletus wanted his name, he asked the family, and that's what they did. So my middle name is actually Cletus. So long story short, but yeah, that's the priest I'm named after. After.
There you go, Angelo. There's the priest you keep saying, Cletus. Priest Cletus.
Yep, Father Cletus.
Father Cletus. Awesome. I love that. Oh, Michael, you're so much fun to talk to. This is great. I love it. I'm having such a good time. I know Christine is out there still itching. She's still looking.
I can pull a card for you, Christine. Mediumship, that might take a little longer. And don't forget, I do private readings. You can go to my website. But let me just, do you have any questions about like a specific question? Help me like kind of narrow in what you're asking. Or I could just pull a card, just see what comes from it for Christine.
There you go, Christine. So if you got a specific question, Eveline is sending some validation my way. He smoked pipes, cigars, worked with wood, did models, ships, cars, construction, woodworking, and died from a heart attack. Awesome. And
so
Christine,
thank you for your dad to come through and talk with us tonight. And
yes, thank you. And okay, so do you feel my dad or a friend who passed?
We just don't have the time to get into
still looking for that. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go with a card.
Okay, let me just pull a card for you, Christine. But Friday, Jennifer and I, that's our show. If you want to tune in, I'm sure we're going to do some mediumship readings there.
Awesome.
So let me just pull a card for you, though. So this is the card I got for you, Christine. It's the situation will improve. So let me just feel into this, though, a little bit. So first thing that comes to mind is your family dynamics. So I don't know if you're going through a turbulent time with your family right now, but that's what comes to mind is like, and they want you to be the bystander. They don't want you to fan the flames. It's kind of like, I don't know, I feel maybe you can be stubborn along with other people in the family, of course, but I feel your guides are saying just to kind of pull back and just let things cool down. So I don't know if that resonates with you, Christine, but that's just what I'm feeling. If I got to be honest, I'm feeling
it
this.
does.
Yeah. With Mom too. I just feel like be the observer.
That's what she said. Yep. Beautiful. So I think you nailed it with Christine. Awesome. And it looks like Trudy also would love a card because Trudy, she was giving you an endorsement. She said you were her first teacher. And which is pretty. That's pretty awesome.
She is fun. I love Trudy.
That's awesome.
And thank you, Trudy, for sticking with me and continuing to hang out with me on my lives. I appreciate you. So let me see, Trudy.
I love so much that we can all teach each other stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like that's the same thing as my psychic fetish is like my teaching fetish. You know, when I see people teaching stuff, when I was actually a teacher at SUNY Farmingdale locally here for 6 years teaching Photoshop and Illustrator. And it just was such a great energetic exchange, right? When you're teaching people something, because it's the same thing as healing. You're actually learning as you're teaching. You're healing as you get healed. You know, it's the same kind of thing.
And you learn so much from students.
Yeah.
You know, I've learned that being an air traffic control instructor. I've learned that from doing this work that because they're so fresh, they haven't been exposed to like what's normal, you know, mediumship. So they bring a new perspective, and sometimes it's like, wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah, that's great.
Know? So Trudy, this is the card I got for you, and it says, it's up to you. And I know Trudy. Hey, Trudy, can you guess where this is going? Trudy, she said she was a student of mine at one point. So she is also a medium in developing.
Awesome.
And I just feel this, again, is reminding you to take that step. It's up to you whether you want to do this or not, and at what level you want to do this. But also, are you contemplating doing some different kind of work? That just came into my awareness too, either changing like an occupation or doing some type of different job, if you will. So nice. I'll just leave that and see if it resonates, but she's laughing because she knows what I'm saying.
Yes, for sure. It's awesome. She says, working on it. I just got a new job.
Okay. So that's where that came in. Okay. Well, congratulations, Trudy.
Nice. Very cool. So you said you were doing a show with Jennifer Rose. When is that?
Lee.
Jennifer Lee. Oh, Jennifer Lee.
Yep. So we do our show every Friday on the Spiritual Network. Or Spiral.
Oh, that's the Spiritually Imperfect?
Yes.
Yep.
So every Friday at 6:30, Jennifer and I are on. So
awesome.
If you want mediumship readings, you can come and see us on Friday. But again, you know, I do readings.
And then, readings. What's your website? Let me put it up on the bottom of the screen real quick.
Yeah, it's michaelchristophermedium.com.
Easy enough. michaelchristophermedium.com. Let me just put that up here at the bottom for people to see where they can contact you for a personal reading. And if you're interested in checking out the show, Spiritually Imperfect, again, it's really, is it a reading show or it's more like a conversational show?
It's a little bit of everything. When we used to do this show before, and it's really about the people in the chat. We want it to be about them. We want to give them a place to open up, ask questions, we do readings. It's kind of just sharing. So it's kind of like we never have an agenda.
Right.
We just kind of go with it, but we want to start making more time to do readings.
Sure. Yeah. No. Listen, I'm all about that. I love. It's really interesting to me because if you looked at me 10 years ago, I was not a social person. I didn't love interacting with people, and I love interacting with people. I love, like I said, showing my puzzle piece, looking at your puzzle piece, seeing how they fit together, seeing how they don't fit together, still having a good time, still loving each other. Awesome. Thank you so much for the last minute coming on my show and sharing a great hour and more than an hour. It's been awesome. It's been really awesome. Check out more of Michael on the Sacred Spiral Network and on his own webpage. For me, I've got a couple of cool guests lined up this week. I scrambled a little bit. I'm not even going to tell you. I'm not even going to look at my calendar. I'm just going to say, if you like the energy that you're feeling, come on by, hang out, exchange some energy, take some, leave some. You know how that all works.
Oh yeah.
Christine says thank you. And thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next week. Eveline says this is always fun. Thank you, Eveline, for being a repeat visitor. I love that. That means you are having fun. That's very cool. All right, guys, I'm going to run on my end credits, and I'm just going to say peace to everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.